the school board meeting. We are at Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Bowman, can you lead us in the pledge?
Sorry.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. So we have a little bit of house cleaning we have to do first before we jump into the regular meeting. So that's our board's reorganization part of the meeting. So we're going to start with item 4, nomination and election of school board president. Any nominations?
I nominate Rick Petfalski to be the school board president.
Any other nominations?
Do we have to second it? Do we second that, or do we wait?
I think,
He has to say it 3 times.
I have to say it
No,
3
but do you
times.
second it first?
But I don't think you need a second.
No?
No, I don't think you do either.
Okay.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next would be a nomination for the election of school board vice president. A nomination?
Do you want it again?
Nominate Brett Hyde, all right. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Brett. Thank you. Can I get a nomination for the election of school board clerk?
I nominate Eric Schrader.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Schrader. And could I get a nomination for the election of school board treasurer?
I nominate Lisa Warwick.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? We really need to change this from here. Any other nomination? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Warwick.
Thank you.
All right. Since next is the appointment of Business Services Committee. Since we used our committee so much last year, that would be 0. I'm going to appoint the same committees as we did last year. So for Business Services, and I will appoint Lisa, if you could chair that committee.
Yep.
Along with Dean and Bob. And Education Committee, Eric, would you chair that?
Yep.
Along with Brett and Chris. I need to, under item G, appointment of CISA representative. Could I get, Brett, would you?
I can serve again, yes.
All right. Brett would be the CISA rep, and the appointment of the WASBA delegate. This one I'm looking for volunteers. So
Chris
I don't
is
have to
hiding. Did you see
Yeah, I
it?
see.
I was.
You were the last two.
Chris has done it the last 2 years. Any volunteers?
Yeah, you did it too.
Chris and I did it last two.
Like that side of the room.
Any other nominations? Volunteers, I should say. Otherwise, I'm going to appoint.
I'll happily do alternate delegate.
That's usually my job, but.
I'd be willing to do that
Okay.
one.
Stare at Dean.
Don't. This one you don't want to make.
Mr. Strom.
It's a lovely going away.
I've appointed you as the WASBA delegate.
All right.
I can be the alternate on that.
Thank you,
Unless
Dean.
Lisa has an issue.
No, that's
I'm
no.
down there anyway that day, so.
In the event that Dean cannot fulfill his position.
Which might be stronger than usual. All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to the consent agenda. Item 5. Could I get a motion to approve consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Anything in consent agenda that needs separate consideration or separate questions? Hearing none,
I just have a question. It doesn't necessarily need to get pulled.
Yep.
So under the action memorandum for the new teacher hires, I assume that we're not done hiring, right?
That is correct.
Okay, that was my only question.
All those in favor of consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to student representation. Ms. Lucas, how you doing?
Well, how are you?
All right.
did take 2 AP exams today, so.
Whoa.
You know, a long day for me. But, okay, I want to remind you guys to come see the high school's drama club production of Front, which is a play by Robert Casely. That play is this weekend. It's Friday and Saturday at 7, and then Sunday at 2, and tickets are $7 for adults and $5 for students. And then MHS juniors and seniors, we had our prom this past weekend on Saturday, which was super duper fun. The theme was a masquerade ball. It was very lovely seeing everyone dressed up. And then lastly, I don't want you guys to get too bummed because this isn't my last meeting. We have one more on the 15th together, but I would like to introduce you guys to Colin Didio, who's going to be your 2017 and 2018 school board representative. So I'm going to hand it over to him.
Hey, I'm Colin Didio. I'm a sophomore at Mosquito High School. I've been in student council for quite a few years and was the president over at Baylane 2 years ago, and I look forward to working with you guys next year.
Do you guys have any questions?
Are you, what activities are you involved in?
I'm in
Any?
track currently and football the past few years.
Cool.
Having the Special Olympics this Saturday.
Oh, yes, I forgot to mention it. Yeah, Special Olympics they have going on Saturday morning, so a bunch of students with special needs will be running in the track events, which is super fun. It's my favorite event. I'm in track too, so I've been to that a few years. It's one of my favorites. My cousin does it as well, so I love that a lot. If you guys are around, you should come out and catch it. Anything else?
How was your trip to Disney?
Oh, it was so much fun. Yeah, it was a great time. Like, it was very surreal, like, performing at Epcot. Like, I just, like, took a moment and, like, looked around, and I was like, this is so amazing. It was incredible, and I loved watching the marching band in Magic Kingdom as well. It was so much fun. It was exhausting, but it was super fun. Yeah, I loved it.
Cool.
Super. Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
You know, just because you have schooling, you're welcome to come to the board meetings all summer long.
Okay, all right.
We'll set up your little name tag.
Good, good. Do I get to keep this part? This is my name.
You
Yeah.
have to talk to Darlene about that. She's pretty stringent about some of that. Moving on to information follow-up, number 8, 8A, Phase 4 construction bids. In front of you are
Did we
the,
get the public comment?
I did, sorry, it makes a quicker meeting. Thank you. Backing up to item 7, public forum. This is your opportunity to bring anything forward to the school board that needs our attention. Is there anyone that would like to speak? You've got a full room and you're all here just to get credit for student council, aren't you? Now, get some awards today, too. All right. Hearing none, moving on to item 8, information follow-up. Phase 4 construction bids are in front of you. This is the final round of bids that have been awarded for the construction projects. We have our representatives from C.G. Schmidt here if you have any questions. Does anyone have any?
I do.
All right. Come up to the microphone.
On page 4 and on page 15, gym floors. What does MNSD to hold contract mean?
Baseman Brothers is a non-union firm.
Okay.
And we're signatory to the Carpenters Union. So if the district wanted to use that contractor, they would have to hold that contract.
Okay. And then my second question, because it looks like we're not using them, on page 4 and 15, I'm a little concerned with why we're spending an extra $51,000 to use a certain contractor. Soccer sports floors.
Yep. Great question. So we've used 2 of the 3 contractors that are noted on there, both ProStar for almost a decade, and additionally we used Schmidt Sports Floor. ProStar failed us miserably, and their product, they wouldn't stand behind it, and as a matter of fact, we would schedule them, and they wouldn't show up to finish the work. And Schmidt Flooring came in to kind of rescue their work and ended up failing miserably as well. And the funny thing is, after we made the decision the same day, I got a call from a private school in the area who had a floor done by one of them that also failed miserably, and it was a brand new floor. And so I feel like for the investment that we're putting into these gyms, that we want it done right and right the first time, and we also want somebody that's going to stand behind their product. So that was my recommendation.
So what about Baseman Brothers?
They also come with a list of folks that they haven't served very well, so we haven't used them, and that's based just upon the experiences that others have had. So I do have references that I called before making this decision. So.
We did speak about this at the committee as well. How comfortable moving forward with it because of these reasons.
Okay. I just, looking at the other attachment, which appears to be our bottom line. $51,000 could definitely assist us in where we're at right now. Okay.
Not if we do it twice.
Well, he had the references, I didn't. I just checked out
It's a fair
Baseman
question, though.
on the internet as much as I could, and I didn't find anything negative.
Yeah. No, it's a fair question that you had, but based on what we know, I'm extremely comfortable with going forward the way we are.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Do we want to just go over this, the other attachment?
Sure.
Just to see where we're at?
Almost made it out.
So you're talking about the multicolored
Yep.
document, so...
I guess just to explain where we're at with the bottom line.
Okay, bottom line.
So we had 48 additional work categories that we reviewed in this last phase. That kind of wraps up all of the bid scopes for the entire project. We're also carrying a $210,000 allowance for playgrounds for middle school and Country Meadow. We have a $350,000 allowance for municipal improvements. Mainly at the middle school site, we have 2 bypass lanes that the city's requested, as well as some utility lines that we'll have to raise at the new entrance driveway. And there's also talk of some improvements to the rec trail as a secondary access point. So we set aside $350,000 to deal with that. And we've also been able to come up with about a $950,000 allowance for the city water connection. So, all in, total guaranteed maximum price $40,041,113. And then there's a total project budget sheet in there as well that shows where the rest of the dollars are to meet the $45,170,000.
So is your construction contingency, is that going to be sufficient?
We were carrying 1.25 million, and based on the bidding response that we got back and questions that might be out there, we feel we got a pretty solid scope nailed down here, so we're comfortable with 1.25. And there's another $250,000 owner contingency within the total project budget as well.
Okay.
And these dollars also do not account for the interest earnings that the board will see from the overall project investment as well. So those will be in addition to any of the work that's here.
So the interest earnings go back into the project?
No, that's the board decision. The board has discretion over any of the interest earnings, but if we needed it if the board wanted to do anything project-wise or for debt or any of those things, that would be a discussion itself, but it's not built into the project.
Okay. I think it would have to be something pretty important for this board to put the interest earnings back into the project because we have other things going on that we're... Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. You Dan. All right, moving on to item 9, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Thompson.
Okay, we're going to start this evening's report with recognition of a new employee of our system who was just recognized or approved by the board. Our new Director of Athletics and Activities, Ron from Oconomowoc. If you want to come on up and introduce yourself to the community and reintroduce yourself to the board, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I am Ryan McMillan. I've had a lot of great leadership experiences over the past decade in education, being an educational leader as both a coach and a teacher. I look very forward to joining a motivated, driven school district such as yourself, and every reference check I did on Muskego told me how great the people were, the students were, and how motivated they were at academics, athletics, music, and all the other activities that come along with it. So I look forward to the journey. We got a lot of hard work in front of us, and I'm okay with that.
Well, thank you very much
Thank
and
you.
welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, so now we will be recognizing a group of incredibly dedicated students from the forensics team. And I don't know if you want to start with some information about your journey of how your students kind of went through their season, and then we can recognize them.
It was an incredible season this year. We had 12 tournaments, multiple awards this year. We had the largest team we've had in over 6 years. We had 19 kids on the team this year. And 10 of them tonight are here. They qualified for the WHSFA state tournament this year. But it has been a very, very fun season, a very rewarding season. And I do want to give a shout out to my coaches as well, Emily Dittmar and Leanne Klausager, who's not here, but a welcome addition to the team this year. So yeah, they did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your coaching.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. So we're going to start with two gold medalists, Joshua and Julia, if you want to come on up.
So we have a certificate of appreciation from the board, and I'm going to read it. It said, Certificate of Appreciation, the school board of the Muskego Norway School District hereby commends Joshua Zhang for his presentation in the Wisconsin High School Forensics Association 2017 tournament. Through his performance, Joshua earned WHSFA gold medal in his category Moments in History. Through this achievement, Joshua has brought honor not only to himself, his family, but to the Muskego Norway schools and community. The school board congratulates Joshua and wishes him success in his future academic and career endeavors. And it's signed by the board officers. Congratulations. We're doing for that. Congratulations.
So then we have some silver medalists. And so as your name is called, if you want to come on up, then we'll...
Abigail? Oh, I'm sorry. Pripke? And Abigail got she was a silver medalist in expatriate speaking, which probably she should be doing this instead of me. Congratulations. Chloe Adamson. And Chloe was a silver medalist in group interpretation. Daphne, I'm sorry.
It's very, I know.
And Daphne, congratulations. Daphne got a silver medal in group interpretation as well.
So you're together, right?
Tam? Taylor got a silver medal in Polish. Jacob? And Jacob got a silver in poetry as well. Maya? And she got a silver medal in demonstrational speech. Catherine? And Catherine got one in a silver medal in group interpretation as well. Thank you. And Abigail got a silver in storytelling. Congratulations.
All right, so maybe we could make 2 lines. Okay, we're short.
Why do you gotta be like that?
I mean, probably 6-1. Practically.
All right, I'll take one first and I'll let you jump in.
Okay. Like in between, that's okay. Oh, well.
Oh, and you need to move over, so. And. Yep. There, good, ready? 1, 2, 3. I got mine, this is perfect.
Pretty good?
Yep. Up.
Hey, Red Terrace.
Do you want to go front, take it?
Come right up.
Come on. Come up front.
Just today,
Yesterday?
probably doesn't stop breathing.
Are you sneezing a ton? Are your eyes itchy?
All right.
All right.
Yeah, of course, I really take care of it, but I wasn't thinking about it.
Now, Jeff DeClapper is here to introduce his team, the Warrior Bots, and share a little story about their journey this year. So thank you very much, and Jeff, you can use that.
So excited.
They brought it, that's cool.
Good evening.
Hi.
I don't know if you guys remember, I was here a year ago, actually almost exactly a year ago, and was talking about starting the team. And so we went all in this year, and the kids are here to talk a little bit about what we were able to put together. And we brought our robot as well, so they'll be driving that around just a little bit. I'm going to actually turn it over to the students for the first part. So this is Sam Hoover, our senior, and Captain.
Hello, everyone. I'm Samantha Hoover. Like he mentioned, I am the team captain. I just want to start off with thank you for having us here, and today we will be telling you about how we have become a team, or a better team, along with how we will further the team as well. And I would like my team members to introduce themselves with their name and what team they were a part of during the design build season.
I'm Alex Buzlaki, and I was part of the design team.
I'd like to have you step up to the microphone too. Sorry, it doesn't project your voice, but then we record it for our communication too, so speaking of that. Sorry about that.
I'm Alex Buzlaki, and I'm from the design team.
I'm Kat Wappen, and I'm from the design team.
I'm Jasmine Naran, and I'm from the electrical team.
And I'm Alex Beer, and I'm from the programming team.
I'm Ryan Gillespie, and I'm also from the programming team.
I'm Travis Fowler from design and driving.
I'm Isaac Osland, I'm from electrical.
So, in case you didn't know, our program is called FIRST Robotics, FIRST standing for, actually, for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. There's 4 different levels. They try to get everyone in as young as they can. There's a 6 to 10 age where they use these Lego Mindstorms, they call them, and they use, it's just simple robotics like that. And then there's a more advanced one. That was the junior one. There's a normal one for 10 to 14. And then there's the FIRST Tech Challenge, which uses some more advanced parts. and it's like lower high school, I guess you would say. And then the first robotics competition, which we were in, was using caliber robots such as these. So the focuses and the main teachings are of teamwork, gracious professionalism, which is a big one. They mentioned that many times. And skills that we can use later down in our lives. So we're not just doing this for fun. I mean, it's fun, but it's got much practical application.
So something about what it takes for a team. So part of it was a lot of time and dedication. We were doing 15 hours a week for 10 weeks during the build session, which was when we put together the robot. And normally there would be 17 students and about 4 adult mentors helping out during the 5-day week. And we needed excellent communication because we had to do it with ourselves, and we communicate with school and with community partners. And there was a lot of support for all of us because we got it through our mentors, and we got a lot of sponsors to get materials and financial support.
We competed in our Wisconsin regional event, which took place at the Milwaukee Panther Arena, and at the competition we ranked 19 out of 54 teams, which is pretty good for a rookie team, and out of our 10 matches we won 6 of them, only losing 4, and one of our main goals was climbing, and we did that 9 out of the 10 matches. And we also ended up winning the Rookie Inspiration Award, which was showing that our team... Thank you, Isaac. Which showed our team could work as like inspiration for other teams starting up and be a role model for future teams.
What we learned this entire season, I can never explain in like 2 minutes. Like, we learned so many things, but like to sum it up, I think the biggest things we learned were communication, which we learned the hard way. You can't win without communication. We learned planning was huge. We spent, like I said, 15 to 20 hours a week working on this robot, and you have to be able to plan out how you're going to get it done. Otherwise, it's not getting done. Problem solving and how to think outside of the box was, I think, the most important thing that I learned out of this entire thing, and I think my teammates can agree, because it kind of goes in hand with practical use and future application. If I get stuck in a situation that I don't know what to do, I think this taught me how to be able to work through problems that I don't understand and how to use this eventually when I'm going to need it. And I think the last thing we learned was how to work as a team, which was absolutely monumental, because I don't think without that we would have succeeded the way we did.
All right, back up here again. We want to grow the team as much as we can. We want to get younger kids inspired to join the robotics team. We want to have this program go further and further, have more kids learn about the engineering field along with the STEM. So one thing we have created is Flame Day. Flame Day is the female leadership advocating for mechanical engineers. We will be presenting to middle school girls, explaining you guys should get into the engineering field, especially the mechanical, which I will be going into. It's a good field to get into. STEM Day is another thing that we want to bring to the middle schools and down to the elementary schools, teaching them different careers that they could go into with the STEM, and teach them fun activities and show them all the different routes that they could possibly take in the STEM field. We also want to do a week of summer school, which we would then have all age groups come, and we teach them in their age groups what activities would suit them and teach them more about STEM. And then another goofy idea we had was sumo bots, where we would give kids a little Vex kit, and they would have their own little robots to verse each other and see how well they're doing in a group environment. And then we will be presenting at-school functions such as this, along with on May 11th, we will be presenting during our lunch and in the evening, telling about FIRST and what our experiences were, and working with younger kids especially. We want to work down to the middle school and the elementary schools and get them up So then when they become high schoolers, they can be like us and they can grow up and feel accomplishment, which we have all felt during this whole presentation.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, I was engrossed in there. Again, I was here a year ago, and if you recall, I talked about the fact that we were going to start small, and we were going to build skills, and everything was going to be great. And we ended up just deciding we were going to jump right in and do the full competition this year. And so I think what you can see is we had quite a bit of success, just narrowly missing going to nationals, which were last week. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but everything else was fantastic. I can't emphasize enough that we had, out of the 23 kids on the team, 24 kids on the team, we had 17 show up 5 times a week on average. Each kid put in over 200 hours of their own time over and above school. I mean, it was inspiring for me to watch. Other teachers would say, "Wow, that's a lot of time," but it was so fantastic. Not only feeling like we were part of the family, which we did, but also feeling like these kids really want to go. They want to go, and I just need to get out of their way and support them as best I can. And so that's what we were able to do. And I think we were pretty successful. Also, we had a huge amount of adult support as well. We ended up with 8 adult mentors from mostly parents or grandparents who came in, and on average we had 4 a night other than me. So it was pretty amazing that there was usually about 4 or 5 kids to an adult or less. So it was pretty great. Again, I don't want to take too much time, but we did get quite a bit of support. We got quite a bit of support. Ms. Brooks was able to help us with a grant through the district, and then we added to that $4,000 from the RBC Foundation. We got another $2,400 from Wisconsin DPI, and then we ended up bringing in just about $6,000 in corporate support, whether that was materials or financial support. So we ended up with quite a bit of help in that respect, and so it was pretty good. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there, and we've got a plan for next year, as you can hear from Sam. So, I think that was just the last piece right here. And this, as an engineering teacher, this was the biggest thing for me. The bar chart in the upper right corner there was a huge deal. I have to say, students who take my class, they've already decided that they're going to be an engineer. And what I found with this was that you had students who were somewhat interested in it and wanted to get involved, but in the end, we ended up with 13 of them saying that they were much more likely to choose engineering as a career now that they know they can succeed in it, which was huge. And I don't think you can get those numbers in a regular classroom environment, or you can't get at least that percentage in a regular classroom environment. So for me, it was just a huge plus. I look forward to seeing them, if I haven't already, in some of my engineering classes later on. I did put that quote in there from one of the students, which I thought was great, just about how we developed a family as well as everything else. I'm not going to read it for you. But with that, I wanted to give the kids some time to drive the robot around. This is our actual competition robot. You can see, I'm going to let them take over here.
So right now it is quite a bit slowed down from what it was our competition.
You want to talk into it? You can narrate over here.
So this is our competition robot, as Mr. Goffer already said, and right now it's a large bit slowed down from what it was during the competition. In fact, I'd say it was probably a bit too fast during competition. But essentially, what happened was we went there, we kind of put together what we needed to, and then we got a chance to compare ourselves to the other teams, which I thought was really cool because we had something that we could compare to some of the much more experienced teams, and even in some cases better than some of them. But yeah, there's not really much I can say about this. So,
how fast?
All right. This is kind of a weird part. Let's just have it spin. So I'm going to slowly increase the throttle as I'm spinning it, and just to give you an idea of how fast it can actually go. That didn't even get to full speed. Now, granted, we weren't quite used to working with this kind of and then if you notice there's a bit of stuttering there, that was because there's essentially an internet router in there that is communicating with the computer here, and that's shielded by a lot of metal and plastic and electronic interference and stuff, so occasionally we do get a bit of lag. But, yeah, we had one...
You want to point out the 3 parts?
Oh, sure. Well, this was my part. So I got to drive. So essentially, there were 3 mechanisms that we had to score points. There was the gear door, right here. You can see it moving there. That's what we used to carry and deposit gears onto the airship. So it was the main method we used to get points throughout the competition. There was the roller. Turn around, Travis. Which we could unroll and roll back down. And we would also lower and close the ball door using an actuator, which we didn't end up using quite a bit, but it was still nice to have. And we had and according to a couple teams, we had one of the most creative mechanisms to moving around and dumping all the balls we could carry, simply because we had the fabric and not just a confined space, which one of the complaints, we were going to do that at first, but one of the complaints was we were wasting a lot of space on the robot. So we decided to do that, and it worked great for thinking about how to use it. And the final and my personal favorite mechanism for scoring points was you can see that giant mechanism on the top there, the climber. Now, to be honest, this was my favorite because like I said, it worked 9 out of 10 times. It was, in my opinion, by far our most successful mechanism, and that one time it failed was partially due to another team using our rope. So, yes, and this is also my favorite button on this controller, because it turns on. You notice that is quite fast. And there are 2 motors geared to do that. It's also quite a lot of torque. So it was able to lift the robot, which weighs about, in total, 80, 90 pounds?
No, about 150.
Yeah, with the battery and the bumpers, a lot of weight, and to about a height of 5 feet in about 3 to 5 seconds. It was crazy. It was, like I said, my personal favorite.
Do you guys have any questions or anything you want to ask?
That looks like you could deliver for Amazon.
Or I should just put a smile on it.
Yeah.
So how many of you will be on the robotics team? I know one of you is a senior at least.
Sadly.
Right, so are the rest of you going to be on the team next year?
Oh,
Great, that's wonderful.
I watched part of it, they had an internet feed, and I watched part of it, and I was amazed at what a big deal it was. It was really something. How'd you come up with the controls? I guess, how did that start out with, from the remote control design, and how did you get your inspiration from?
This, are you talking about the operator console here, or? Yeah, what we found was, actually Mr. Glopper was the first one to point this out, was at the competition, we needed a way to carry all of this stuff around, the computer, the joystick, and the controller. And they would have been a lot worse to carry around with all of the cords hanging around and not one platform to carry them all on. So he had me draw up a brief diagram of a driver station that was quickly scrapped because mine wasn't very good. And this one, and another student designed this one, and that's one we used.
Are you talking about the actual controllers?
Well, I think that, and then inside here, as far as the controllers for remotely controlling and the actuators and the.
So like the layout of the controls, or?
inside there, like,
That's
Yeah,
the electronics trade. Well, we have a Wi-Fi to transmit to that. We have a Wi-Fi which transmit all of it into there, and we had to make sure that we didn't cut off that Wi-Fi. We also had a kill switch as well, because you can't have a robot without a kill switch. No, it's on the other side. The kill switch was right here. I don't know if any of you can see it, which automatically transferred to those to stop working completely. And then all of our talons, which are, I can't even show you because it's so buried deep in here. All of our talons, which are the red, not the red, the yellow and blue wires, were directly controlled through that. So that was the entire communication system, kind of in a bundle. Any you want to add? No.
The talons she's referring to are just speed controllers, so for how fast the motor is going.
The electronic components that turn the signal we're giving it from the robot to actual speeds to the motors.
Yeah, we just use a lot of voltage regulators to go to the CAN systems, to go to the motherboard, you want to say, then the CAN system connected straight to the computer programming to control the entire thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fancy.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then all this equipment, was it donated by the sponsors, or did you have to go out and purchase stuff, or some of both?
It's a little bit of both, yeah.
Both? Okay.
Was there like a price limit you guys had to stay under, or?
Yes, and I think Mr. Goff would be in
Otherwise,
yeah,
flying.
So,
Yeah.
with the registration of their first event, you get a basic kit of parts, and a lot of teams don't use it. We use actually quite a bit of it, and then you can go $4,000 beyond that. And then each part can't be too expensive. Otherwise, you'd have teams that have budgets of $80,000 fighting against teams that are $15,000, and you'd never have any chance of success, right? So ours cost about $1,000 on top of the kit of parts materials that we're using, basically the chassis on the bottom there. Everything else was about $1,000.
Can you use this same robot for next year's competition?
We can't. They have a brand new game next year.
Oh, okay.
If you get a donation, does that count like a donation in kind? You have to value that
We do.
item?
We do.
So you just assign a value, and that's part of that 4,000
That's
or
correct.
whatever?
If it's a donation that goes to something other than the robot, that's okay. We can get those without any limit. But donations on the robot are just like we bought.
So do you use the equipment we have in our dab lab that we're kind of building here?
Well,
We've got a printer and...
Do
we have a laser cutter in there?
No.
We have some sort of, well, we've got some equipment, I know that we're, yeah. Do you utilize that equipment?
We have used a little of the equipment found in other parts of the high school. We were given a classroom, actually right across from my regular classroom, that was an old study hall, Spanish room, and everything. And so the finances that you saw before, a lot of it went to outfitting things that we would need specifically for our program. And so that room is a lot better outfitted now than it was 4 or 5 months ago. So even though the robot, I know we saw the financials before, the robot only cost $1,000 on top of the registration fee. A lot of it went into all of the other things that we needed to do as well.
Somehow I got suckered into donating a bunch of stuff to Sussex Hamilton's.
Yes.
A bunch of graphics, but I would happily do that next year for you. So if you need any graphics or signage or anything like that, come see me and I'll take care of you guys for that for free. So
that would be fantastic.
I'd rather donate to my home team than
you would rather that as well. You're right next to them at the competition.
So I've got one last.
How did their graphics look?
I've got one last question. So everyone said that they really like engineering now, right? Any specific types? No, I've heard mechanical.
I like electrical.
Very good. No, they're all good. Engineering's good.
The thing about this program is we run it like a small business, so we don't basically focus on just the engineering aspect. We have several people on the PR team. I was along with the PR team along with Connor Smith and Jacob Myron. They were a big part of the team with the PR, because if we don't have a PR team, we can't really show people what we are and who we are. So we run it like a small business, and Forrest has told us that from the beginning of time. This is a small business, you need to run it like that. So we have all learned how to be professional just in a business and in an engineering standpoint, and it teaches kids about electrical, it teaches kids how to build, it teaches, because you don't have to be an engineer, you can be a carpenter and you can build, you can do a lot of things in this program, and that's why we want to further it, to get more kids involved and not just think it's an engineering world.
Nice response.
Last question while you're at the mic. Since you're the only senior, tell us what your future holds next
I
year.
will be attending MSOE in the fall for mechanical engineering and then furthering on to get a master's in business.
Very good.
So,
Very good.
Congratulations and good luck.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for jumping right in and getting to this instead of your spaced out approach. This is much more fun. The robot would have been about this big. And
Rockwell.
thank you guys very much. Thank you. Good luck.
See you next year.
Right, you wouldn't, yeah.
Thank you.
Whoever's the leader next year will have some big shoes to fill.
Yeah. There's a lot of kids. I asked Abby if she was interested. She said she couldn't devote that much time because they put in a ton of time.
Okay, so as we transition, we're going to be moving to the next item in the superintendent's report, which is an update on efforts with a committee of people who are working on a middle school schedule potential change. And so Christy's here along with, who else is here for this?
Dawn.
Dawn and Linda?
Rachel,
Okay.
Linda.
Okay.
I don't see any of these people were.
They're
Linda, you're talking about.
really right here. They're way back there.
Yeah, they're right there.
We can see you all.
Hiding.
Linda has a dance like a robot.
I guys can't follow that, come on.
But here we are.
Nonetheless.
Okay, Christy.
So if you recall, I think it was back in February when the conversation related to the middle school schedule started. And from that point, the scheduling team created surveys which they sent out to parents of middle school students, middle school teachers, and then area school districts to gather feedback on how our program is currently serving students and where it could be improved, and then to find out how other districts are accomplishing their goals. And so the document that you'll see in board docs just talks about what our project goals were, or are. And first and foremost, it's to support our vision of a graduate and to guarantee our core curriculum, but also provide students opportunities to explore and be responsive to student needs while maintaining fiscal responsibility. So we have results from a survey that was sent out early March to our parents and our teachers. And the themes were actually very consistent between the two groups. Besides having no opinion of the schedule or feeling like it's serving students just fine, there were really three things that were resounding themes. One was that reading intervention shouldn't impact a student's academic schedule. And what that means is that if a student is in a reading intervention, they're automatically pulled from one of their elective classes, so it counts as one of their electives. It takes the space in their schedule. And if they're in two interventions, say for math and reading, they're missing one of their encore classes, plus they're being pulled from another academic class. And the second theme was that the band and world language students, people were wondering if there was an opportunity to have more elective choices for those students. And then there were some comments related to our encore classes and wanting to see relevancy and career, more of a career focus. With teachers, three themes came to the top. One is time equity for all programs. So right now, math and literacy has more time in the day dedicated to their curriculum than other areas.
Intervention shouldn't limit electives, so that was something we saw in both the parent and the teacher survey. And then guaranteed elective or exploratory options. So right now what we're finding is that not everybody is experiencing a wide variety of electives because there are so many of them, and people are making choices early on about certain areas that they might be more interested in at this point in their life. One thing that we noted was that our female students are not participating in some of our STEM-related electives. We've seen a huge decline on that. And with the onset of the robotics class that came in last year, we're starting to see a little bit of an increase, but we know that the world of STEM is, there's a high demand, and we want to make sure we're preparing students and building interest there. So that was just, those are a few of the themes from those surveys. So then what we did was we took a look at what are these themes. We then built another survey to send out to area school districts to see how are other districts serving their students in those capacities. Let me back up one second. One of the other questions on the parent and teacher survey was talking about a guaranteed curriculum. And we took things from our vision of a graduate that we currently do not guarantee all students have exposure to, and asked the question, of the following, which do you think should be part of guaranteed curriculum for students? Guaranteed curriculum refers to curriculum or standards that we guarantee 100% of students receive. Example, literacy, math, physical education. And so in the area of STEM, 95% of parents agreed it should be a guaranteed curriculum. Financial literacy was 95%, career exploration 87%, and health and wellness 90%. We then just took a look just to find out how many students currently participate in something like our current health class. At the middle level, only 20% of students take health. So what we did was create a survey to send out to area middle schools, asking them how they accomplish goals in these areas. So we began with Rti requirements. When and where does it fit into their schedule? Some middle schools have what they call a flex period or a personalized learning period. Some use an advisory period, and some have it during elective class time like we do. The second question we asked is, do you offer 2 years of a world language? So example, Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. The reason why that was so important for us to ask is because one of the wonderings from parents were, could band and world language students have more elective choices? And we wanted to find out how other districts are doing it, but we also know that we're really a rarity in terms that we offer 2 years of a world language. And so 42% of the schools answered the survey, which was 56 total schools. 42% of them offer both world language years 1 and 2. Other approaches include a more exploratory, or like an introduction to a world language class beginning in 7th grade, and then the first year world language class in 8th grade. So they were only able to get 1 year of a world language while in middle school. Another option that we saw was that some schools do 1 year of a world language, but covered over the course of 2 years. So it actually goes every other day for 2 years. And then they're able to get 1 year of a world language while in middle school. But what's unique about our district is that we have the 2 years of a world language. So that definitely is something that makes us different. The other piece that we were wondering about is when and how people are offering band or choir, every day or every other day. 51% of the schools surveyed offer band or choir every other day, and 49% of them offer it every day. Another question that we asked was, do you have a required exploratory elective, like prescribed electives at each grade level? And sometimes in the education world, they call this a wheel. And it basically is that you can predict at every grade level what elective students would be able to explore. 100% of the districts that answered the survey had some sort of required or prescribed electives at each grade level that guaranteed students exposure to curriculum. Some of the approaches were just absolutely no additional choices offered outside of what was offered at each grade level. So kids only explore the electives that are offered. And usually we saw like 3 to 5 electives per grade level, depending on if it was an A, B day, quarter-long semester class. Everyone's a little bit different. Another option that we saw was that there were maybe 5 electives at a grade level, and students chose 4 of the 5. Most of the choice came in at 7th and 8th grade, where 5th and 6th were prescribed. In a couple districts, we saw that only 8th graders had some choice. We figured that that was because we're getting into deciding high school courses and wanting to open it up for students to try different things before high school. And for schools that have band, choir, and world language, oftentimes they would have some sort of package for those students. Sometimes it would include a quarter-long elective, sometimes not. And it really depended on if it was an A day, B day, year-long, or semester-long world language class. Some of the things that we just noted were of the districts that offered band, only 39% of them offered 2 years of a world language. And we were not able to find any other district that offered both 2 years of a world language and every other day in band that also had additional exploratory options. So although we're trying to be very creative in how we can better offer students who take band and a world language some sort of elective choice, we're not finding many schools that even have anything comparable to what we offer, and so we're just still kind of looking at what that can look like. So our next steps are to take what was identified as a theme, which would be the RTI, world language, band students having possibly another option, and some sort of way where we can guarantee curriculum identified through the survey that was important to parents, as well as supporting the district's vision of a graduate, while also allowing students the opportunity to explore at an age when exploring things they don't know about is so important to their development. We're hoping that by August we'll be coming to you with 1 or more suggested schedules, and certainly we'll keep you informed through our process as we get closer to that. Any questions?
So suggested schedules that would be possibly implemented when?
19.
On question 2, so I'm looking at the Muskego Norway parent-teachers survey. So is that how the question was asked as you state here, and then there were, what were these written in, or did they have, or were the surveys limited to what you could choose for a response? Were there like 18 responses or 18 or 5 or?
The question is identical to what you see stated here, and the 4 items listed there were listed on the survey, asking to please identify which ones should be guaranteed curriculum.
Okay.
And those items came directly off of the vision of a graduate, areas that we currently don't guarantee students have exposure to, but we say are important for students.
So is there just out of curiosity, and it's fine if it's not, but was there a place where you could add something you thought was important but didn't have it here?
There was a section of the survey that asked for written feedback, which is where the themes were pulled from.
But not on this question.
Not on the question related to guaranteed curriculum.
Okay. And on these response themes on question 1, just out of curiosity, and I appreciate this summary too, is it listed, in other words, the no opinion middle school students, is that listed in as far as the highest response rate, or is it just randomly in there?
The majority of people had either no opinion or were satisfied.
Okay, so it is by the majority
Yes.
going down. Thank you.
So as we move through this process, as the team continues to explore and learn more, they'll have another update. The end goal is August for 18-19 start. Any other questions from the board or anything comments? Okay, well, thank you, and thank you.
Thank you.
for being
Thank
here.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item is our contributions to the profession. We do have a couple of things we'll pass around if you'd like to look at. We do have, actually we have them right in here. We have an article that was published in the ASCD Wisconsin Highlighter related to our data into action. So we're really happy to be contributing to the profession in that way, and it actually aligns to one of the presentations that we did earlier in the year, last spring. And then also, the Muskego Elementary Community Garden was also a case study and an article in the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District that highlights best practices. And so a few of our district staff, along with Bray, created that article. Also, we worked with Hanover. So you saw in the middle school schedule update a sample article from Hanover that we often go there for best practices. They're a research organization. That's what they do. And they helped us on a research project around the analysis of teacher high impact practices on student growth and proficiency. So that article is there, that analysis is in there. What's really important for us is that we are looking at those high impact educator effectiveness items are actually what we will be targeting for 17-18 professional development. And it comes through, and they were identified through our literacy and social studies review process. And so actually all of their analysis of different types of research came to the conclusion that these 6 items are high impact. And then so we used our own data to determine whether or not that was in fact true for our system. And so we were able to verify that through this research, and we'll continue to work through and collect data to make sure that that continues to happen. Let's see if there's anything else to highlight on here.
How did the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District find out about our Muskego Elementary Community Garden?
Is Jeremiah still here? Jeremiah? I think Bray was.
They noticed a drop in level of the rainwater coming off the roof.
Yeah.
Sent an investigator out, found these rain buckets.
Yes.
See?
Ray was doing they were doing a case studies on all types of different sustainability practices. And so when working with Bray, they had, whether working through their approval processes, had heard about this, and so they had heard about our garden and said, hey, can we work to do a story on this, because other schools probably want to launch something like this. And so they did a study on ours, and actually Jeff could speak to it way better than I can, but from start to finish, it was so much more of an undertaking than just boxes outside with gardens. It's just a really cool thing. So yeah, they loved it and put it in the article, but also there's probably 50 other things that other schools are doing really well, so that if a school district wants to learn how to do one of these things, they have a resource to go to. So I accidentally printed it off, and it was about 300 pages. So combing through it all.
Wastein resources.
And that was wolf packs, right? That created it about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it started with just a study of community and bringing in community organizations, and the Wolfpack saying we would love to be able to give back, brainstormed ways to be able to do that, and up came the community gardens. Perfect.
So thank you. And I think the only other one is highlighting Christy Brooks and her venture into the examiner training with WFA. So she's the last of our cabinet to go through that process. On top of all the other things she's doing, and it's such a rigorous process. So thanks, Christy. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Moving on with other reports. President's report. Just want to thank you all for giving me another term to lead this board. Enjoy doing it. And if you ever have any input on anything I'm doing or the way I'm doing it, please let me know. Besides mispronouncing names at awards.
That created
Well,
that.
yeah.
There is that.
Lisa whispered that in my ear before.
The team brought it up first. I just said, oh, look, the names are right here ahead of time.
And moving on, there was As you all are aware, last Friday, the district was named one of the top workplaces for 2017, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Thompson and her cabinet and all the administrative leaders in the system to make this such an inviting place to work, and that reflects on the work that's getting accomplished, because good things get done when people are happy to be there and enthusiastic about being there. And all these other awards that we've been getting throughout the last few years is a direct reflection of that. I don't think those other things would happen without having a happily engaged workforce. So thank you. We appreciate that. And that concludes my report.
Were those cookies from last Friday?
No, we made them fresh today.
John did have them in a nice
They were in a plastic thing.
Okay.
Cookies. Sealed.
Right. More importantly, were they good?
Was mine good?
I have them all here. I have a few here. But this was the insert. I don't know if you all get the Sunday newspaper. This was the insert in there, and the rankings, and then the article about mosquito and all these things as well. So, and
It was entertaining watching Kelly go up for the Meaningfulness Award, which none of us were expecting. We knew we were getting the top workplace one because that's why they wanted us there. When they called us, we all kind of looked at each other like, oh wait, that's us! We were under the impression that they notified you of these things ahead of time, that you were going to get these separate ones, so it was rather entertaining. That and watching Julie scarf up all the extra mugs.
Which is right?
Is that like taking the shirt packets?
Resources.
In this case, somebody else is.
we were laughing.
That gets rid of the cups.
We could tell we were the newbies at the
Well, what I thought was probably the most impressive out of the award is that we were the top school district. So even though we were 7th, but we were the top school district. So I think that says a lot. Going from not in it the year before to the top school district is probably, I would rather compare the school districts because we're doing similar work. So that was good. Excellent.
So how do you plan on using this award? Can you use it as a recruitment tool?
We already are.
He gets a cookie. It's in the elevator speech already.
And that was all part of the the keynote speaker and everything, just talking about things you do to engage a workforce, but also now go out and use this for any way you can to not only maintain but to recruit staff.
And so we do have a video that we shared with our staff on Friday morning while we were gone. The leaders at each of the building and here at the ESC showed that. We're just verifying, making sure that we can show the kids that are, but that'll be up on our website and, different things like that as well. So.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is going to be, if you looked at the other 5 or 6 school districts that are in there, they're repeats. So now you have to make sure that we can do that same thing, because what they're doing is probably even more difficult than what we did for the first time. So
staying on the list. Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Number
1 next year. We got this.
You just want another mug.
All right, continuing on other board member reports.
I've got a few things. First of all, last Wednesday, we hosted the WSB new board member gathering for our region. And thank you to Art for getting that all squared away and put together.
You're very welcome. Our pleasure.
This is a nice little spread. So we got to talk to some of the new board members in our region, and hopefully we kind of made an impression of some of the great things we do, as well as some of the challenges that they have ahead of themselves as new members. And this past weekend, I was at the WASB board meeting, and a couple interesting things came up. I just thought I'd share real quick. One of our lobbyists, Dan Rossmiller, said that they're going through the final part of the budget, and it looks like the increase that Governor Walker proposed, $200 and $204, the phrase he used was baked in the cake. I've never heard that before. I had to look up. It pretty much means it's pretty well intertwined with the process. So it looks like if it's not going to be at that level, it's going to be really, really close. So it's something to look forward to. Our WIAA representative said that the WIAA is planning on picking up concussion insurance for all students in all schools. So that's a nice little bonus that we'll have, all districts will have from that. And then also, I believe it's Representative Joel Kitchens is Kitchens and Luther Olson has put together a Blue Ribbon Commission on school funding reform, and they're going to take a real serious look at how we currently get the state funding and the formula and all the categorical aids and all that good stuff that goes in it. And we actually do, the WSB does have a representative on there, Dan Rossmiller, again, one of our lead lobbyists. So some things coming down the road to keep an eye out for that hopefully will lead to some good things.
I wanted to extend our appreciation to the Muskego High School music community. I and Lisa Warwick and Dean Strom had the pleasure of attending Disney World in Florida and were able to watch our band march in the Magic Kingdom and our choir perform at Epcot. And they represented our district extremely well, and they were well accompanied and well attended by probably quite a bit of Muskego. And so hats off to band and choir, and very nicely done.
Any other board member reports?
Just a hats off to the kids for I mean, they came out in droves, and just the way they presented themselves was fantastic, representing the community very well. And hats off to everybody who organized that, because it was quite the undertaking. There were 7 buses of kids going to Florida, and coming back. So the way that they organized it all, in large part with texts, it was neat. We could keep tabs on everybody. So it was good. I appreciated it.
One last thing I'm going to bring up under board member reports. I forgot about it during President's report. Tomorrow night there is in the ever ongoing saga with things changing for us in our relationships with the city. The Park and Rec Board is having some discussion on possible fees for us for using any of the parks. So that would maybe impact gym classes and cross-country meets and everything else. So hopefully you're going to be at the meeting. Okay. We have a representative on that board, so hopefully we can.
Not very happy representative on that board at the moment.
Hopefully we can talk some discussion into them as far as what their thought process is. I'm guessing it has to do with the fact that we're charging them a fraction of what their costs are to be using our buildings back. They're just trying to charge us for the sake of charging us. There are no added costs for using a park.
What city parks are we using currently?
Danoon, mainly? Yeah.
For what?
Cross-country.
Well, and the other thing too is that they put us up a new priority and we're dead last.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So the priority list, the way they have it right now, is if somebody from outside the community wants to reserve a park, they're actually come ahead of us in their rankings for reserving a park, so. There you have it. Committee reports. There are no committee reports this evening. Moving on to resolution action items. Item 11A, capital projects approval, Lake Noon Middle School roof section.
Motion to approve Performance Roofing as the vendor for Lake Danoon Middle School roof project at a cost of $31,340.
So moved.
Second.
Jeremiah.
So we were in the process of planning to take the chiller off and replace it. It is a smaller section. I've attached a map to the document here. So while it's off and getting the efficiencies of having a crane on site, being able to take it off, replace the roof, put it back on, and not having to come back to it when we come back to the roof in the year 2019 seemed like the thing to do. So we bid it out, and Performance won the bid, and we'd like to move forward with that this summer.
Have we used that before?
No, we haven't. They were new to the bidder list, but not new to the consultant we use as repertoire of contractors, so he was confident in using them. And I actually always appreciate getting a new name, because sometimes we always get the same names. So, and during all of the bidding processes where Dan has hit up so many different contractors. I've kept all those packets too, so we have all these different contractors for different work categories.
What budget is that coming from?
This will be out of the capital projects budget, so Fund 41 for next year. So all projects, we have a lot of them, so I've talked to you guys a lot, just smaller ones like this, so probably in total of about $530,000.
Any other questions for Jeremiah? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item B, budget tiers.
Motion to approve budget adjustments in tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4 as presented.
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
So we have the attachment again, which is what we reviewed at the board meeting, at the last board meeting, that showed the various changes to the budget that would occur given the different scenarios that we ran. And there were two questions that came back with regard to that. One had to do with the program change for at-risk students. And then the other had to do with a question about health insurance. So in the write-up, we just talked a little bit about health insurance, and they were looking to look at the program itself in 2017-18, actually do a study of it, and then make recommendations in 18-19 for any adjustments, so that we would bring forward at that time. At this time, we wouldn't need the savings given what is occurring in each of these three tiers. So we would like to have that for an option for next year. And then Principal Irvine is here to talk a little bit more about the at-risk program, and just to bring follow-up to you as to why that recommendation is coming forward. And Carly is here as well, representing the People Services Department.
And actually, Mrs. Blunt is here to represent the program and the offerings being provided to students.
There is a presentation.
I'll just do it.
They set up the expressive dance part for us.
That was the robot, if you didn't know.
Yeah. And you guys had access to the presentation as well, correct? Okay. And I can start it. I'll try to be as brief as I can. I apologize. I get really passionate when we start to talk about these things. One of the reasons that I really want to solidify around this, our why, has to do with our belief that we can serve our students even better than we currently are with the resource that we're currently accessing. As you will see, we're talking about increasing our access of a program called GED Option 2, which Mrs. Blunt is going to kind of talk more specifically about what that program looks like. But I really wanted to at least kind of share my own personal philosophical why around this. Why do we believe this is the right thing for our community and for our students? I'm going to go a little bit out of order, the bullet points. So I'm going to go back down to the third one that I've listed there, where it says we have great people committed to living our mission. Going back to last week, Friday, and that award that we won for meaningfulness, which was a result of our staff being surveyed and our staff responding that they believe more than any other organization that was a part of this award, that their work is really, really important, that our teaching staff believes in what they do, and that the mission that we have posted around isn't just a bunch of words up there. It's truly their calling as educators, and that's what they want to do. My core belief is that learning is a social process, that you need relationships and you need rapport, you need to create engagement to keep students on task to work towards that goal of getting a diploma. We all very strongly believe that every one of our students needs a diploma in their hands, because these are not just our students, they're our community residents. So we need to make sure we've got a really broad range of opportunities to ensure that every single student that walks through those halls has the best opportunity possible to earn their diploma. So when I look back at some of the things that I researched in choosing Muskego as a destination district for myself, it was the work centered around keeping our students in our buildings. The process that was mentioned earlier tonight, I believe our district does a fantastic job of recruiting and retaining some of the absolute best staff possible. So where could we send our students that would be better than our buildings, with our people who live our mission? And it comes back to that relationship concept. So I think about some of our at-risk students who maybe haven't always fit the mold per se. Are we really believing that it's better for us to send those students out of our building, away from our great staff, away from these organizations and clubs and activities that we know can hook them and keep them connected in the right places? Or do we need to do everything we can to keep them in our building and maybe look differently at how do we measure success? How do we hold them accountable? How do we hold high standards for them so that when they leave our building, they're truly prepared to be college, career, and community ready?
So that's really what opened up kind of the conversation around what do we have currently on the table. We have some really good credit recovery options. Mrs. Blunt does some phenomenal things with our at-risk students, and I would argue that we have one of the best at-risk personnel people in the business who truly does a great job building connections and relationships. So more than anything, we need to keep our kids in our building with our staff. And we already actually have the school board policies in place to access this resource. We've actually been doing it on a limited basis. It's kind of an as needed, but we've invested in this other program that, to be honest, what you'll hear about in a little bit, probably isn't doing as good of a job, and is really, in all honesty, probably watering down curriculum and content, and not holding to the same standard that we believe is important for our students. So at this point, I'll shift over to a little bit more of the detailed approach of what exactly is a GED option 2 and what does it look like.
My name is Shannon Blunt. Probably going to be my only opportunity to ever be in front of you, hopefully. I work with the at-risk at the high school. This is my 6th year. And first of all, before I go on, I just want to thank you all. In my 6 years, I'm still amazed at how supportive you all as a school board, Dr. Thompson, everyone at the ESC, admin, everyone down to the building. You guys are always so supportive of the different options and different plans and the things we need to fight for our at-risk. I think often it's very easy to see the wonderful accomplishments of robotics and all that stuff, but the at-risk, that's really where a district will exemplify what their commitment is to students, and this district has been amazing, and really, even from my point of view, really does uphold that every student learning brings to see. So I wanted to thank you so much for that, first of all. So, the GED option 2, I think the one thing that right away people get freaked out about is that the GED component to this. It is not a GED degree or diploma. It is going to be earning a regular Michigan diploma. What we do is, instead of worrying about the credits, that kind of normal, traditional mode, by the senior year we have some extremely credit-efficient students that we just need to find a different path to. And historically we've contracted out to CISA, to their alternative site. And I think over time it's served its purpose. But I think now we're really looking at saying what can we do in our own district to be more effective and to serve our students better. So in my time, I've had some networking and kind of a learning curve. This GED option 2 really will fulfill that and allow us to serve our students better and also at the same time use resources to drive student impact. So what it really does is, instead of the credits, students will take the GED tests at the WCTC, that's the testing site we're going to do. They need to pass them, and these are some very difficult tests. And so they may pass their test, and then if they pass all those tests, then they will get their diploma. We have some other requirements that they'll need to do. We'll have a service learning project as well as a work component that they must fulfill. Students in this program have to be employed throughout as well. So really the aim of this is not only for them to demonstrate proficiency and mastery of the state standards for high school diploma and of our district, but also to ensure that they're walking away with skills that'll help them in their employability or in high school or college rather. So with that, going on to the next one, who would benefit from the GED option 2? Students who are really extremely credit efficient and not at risk of not graduating with their class. We have a good population, I'd say about 10 to 20 students a year that they enter their senior year, it's going to be a feat for them to graduate. And so we've, again, historically used Learning Center West or Credit Recovery and different creative options, and now we would like to transition there where we put them into this program instead. So what they're doing in their class time with me is prepping for those tests. If they have already earned all their graduation requirements, so let's say in English, then they will be waived from having to take that GED option 2 test. The idea is then that motivates some of those students, and especially junior year, they're on the fringe to really focus in and still fight for as much credit as possible so that they can waive a couple of those tests their senior year. So their time with me will be spent prepping for those tests. They have pre-test options, and it's a pretty rigorous program, and comparable districts in our area utilize this. I went to every year I go to the annual at-risk conference, and this is a program that has become very widely used throughout the state, especially for those districts who want to bring the resources back in and not utilize outside resources as much. So. Some requirements is that they have to be 17 years old. They recommend to be senior, and our philosophy will be that they're seniors. We're not trying to utilize this program to get students out early. We want them to participate in the ceremony with their peers. That's not the goal. The goal is to ensure that they still can demonstrate that they're successful in their diploma. So another thing is that they have to also have a ninth grade level. Yes, I'm sorry.
So you have a minimum limit, do you have an upper limit? Like if a student, say, is behind, should have graduated in a previous class?
This would be for them as well.
How far do we go with that?
Age 20, I believe, is the legal for regular and then special ed would be 21.
Okay.
So it's through the end of the school year in which the child either turns 20 if they do not have an IEP. If they do have an IEP, it goes through 21.
So some of our fifth year that if they weren't successful, they could return and utilize this program as well. And then further requirements to complete the program. So they must have a job at the start of the program maintained. That would be part of my role in this, is that they have to keep a job. We find it really important that they demonstrate commitment. They have to have near perfect attendance. In fact, many of the districts require that if they don't have their attendance made up, they're not allowed to take their tests. So they tie their attendance to their test-taking abilities, which when we're working with average students, we have to find every nugget of motivation that we possibly can. So that is one effective way. They have attended a minimum of 12 hours face-to-face instructional prep time a week. So that means there's a shortened date for them. It's a 3-hour program. We're going to design it that's comparable to other school districts because then we give them time to work. But the ultimate advantage is because it is in the building, if they want to take other college career electives, they could fill out the rest of their day with those classes. So we're not saying that they just need to be with us for that time. They're more than welcome to access some of those other opportunities. In addition to the fact that they will have access to their school counselor and all our in-building resources, their ACP and everything, we feel that because we're bringing that back in the building, our students are going to be better served in those areas and we can have a direct impact on them. And then we'll also have a career portfolio and a service learning. We would like to have the students have some experiences volunteering outside and having kind of a portfolio. They will have a pretty big portfolio at the end of this. We really want the students to demonstrate growth throughout this. It's not about checking off a bunch of boxes. We really want to have the students track their evolution through their program and their growth. So the benefits, this is a great program. I've been, like I said, my 6th year. I came into this district aware of this program. I've been kind of chomping a bit, hoping that somehow this we'd be able to bring it to this district. I really do fit very, very well. It really does improve our alternative offerings. I feel like now, in the past, using our outside resources, it's been okay. But can I look at all of you or our community members and say, yes, we are top-notch, our at-risk kids are getting some great services out there? I can't guarantee that. But with this program, with the rigor that these tests provide, I have utmost confidence that the students that complete this program really are earning that diploma, and it represents what our school district is. It gives us a clear standard framework. We know, and it's there, it's black and white. They're either pass the test and demonstrate proficiency and mastery or they're not. So it's really clear-cut. It really eliminates that gray area of not knowing what the student experience was. And of course, the final thing is that we're utilizing our district resources much more efficiently for direct student impact. I think we can do it better, basically, than what we have been doing with contracting out. So I'm really excited. It's a really great program, and maybe someday you'll have me come back and I can tell you more. But, so, yeah. If there's any questions, though, I'm sorry. Long night.
You did a great job summarizing. And again, just to reiterate, this is a program that the board would have seen in the past that we've utilized. It's just been outside. So similar to the way we've been moving programs back into our system, like special education. We used to have far more students served outside in alternate settings, and we've just slowly but surely been bringing them back in-house because, you know, many of the things that Mr. Irvine had mentioned, it's our staff, it's our curriculum, it's our support from our administration, it's really our dedication and commitment to our students. So just to reiterate, this isn't anything new from the standpoint of what we've been doing over the number of years of really bringing things in and saying, we're going to serve our students with our staff.
So when we contract currently with CISA, these kids are going into this GE2 program with CISA?
couple different options. They can access GED option 2, or they can also do a credit recovery, which is where, in all honesty, where we've kind of struggled because the rate at which they can earn credits there far exceeds what is typical. So that's where we start to question the fidelity of the curriculum that perhaps are being exposed to. And additionally, in that alternate site, what I would argue, and again, I admit my bias, our most challenging kids are pretty darn great kids, and what they're being exposed to in this alternate site, the number of concerns our students articulate when they come back to the conversations they're a part of, just the difference in engagement and motivation to be a learner is quite different. So not only is there differences in curriculum, there's difference in likely some of the things they're being exposed to from a school culture standpoint.
And some of it they do out there, honestly, and I'll be honest, 8 years ago I was working out there. I worked out there for 2 years, so I'm familiar with the setting and how it used to be versus the difference now, and it's a big difference. We can replicate it in the building.
What's going to happen to credit recovery?
Still will function. Yeah. So this is where, again, I'll go back to the privilege it is to have amazing dedicated staff. One of her non-negotiables going into this is we can't change and alter the option. So what we'll be doing is she's really taking on a lot, and we will support her with some instructional assistance time. So where there's some time where it's purely supervisory, where once we get kids up and going and working on that, and also WBS, she can really get that going and then invest the time in other places. So we'll be working to find some great instructional support staff who will focus on building relationships and partner with her in that really important work. But she's really the brains behind the operation and is masterful in building the rapport that makes a difference.
And we have, I also network with other districts that have similar style where they do multi-programs in the same classroom. So I do have other models and networks of people to kind of refer to for successful examples if I do need any guidance on that.
About how many students will this affect?
Will
you be able to utilize it, I should say?
Yeah. Well, I think initially we keep to 10, like kind of 10 students at a time, and some might be fluid, so a couple students may be able to finish somewhat at their 18 and a half, but probably about 10 to 20 students may, because that's about the same as what CISA does right now. So that's about our population of seniors that are extremely credit deficient that may need to access this.
So how do we work with CISA on that? They go to an off-site school for the entire day?
Just for the morning. Or after they do a 3-hour block, and it's either morning or afternoon session.
And we have to transport them there?
Yes.
And back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that'll actually hopefully save us some money, quite a bit of money? Yeah.
Well, that's part of the tier.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's above my pay grades.
We didn't necessarily talk about the financial aspect because we would push for this from the sense that we believe it's best for our kids.
Well, I agree with that. I just don't want to be spending a whole lot of money if we're not going to be able to service our kids properly. So you seem very dedicated, and I feel very confident that you'll be able to implement the program.
It will. It really will.
Well, the reason that you're presenting right now is because it's a budget item. So, so I'm a 17-year-old, I'm credit deficient, going into my senior year, I enroll in this program, and come May, I have failed to pass the GED option 2 testing. Where do I go at that point?
Well, at that point, there's a certain point that we always have some students that don't make it, and they would stay in the program and they'd continue on to the next year, and they would still. And at that point, though, I would say they're going to be taking tests earlier, and if we're finding that they really are not hitting that testing bam right away, we have concerns of whether or not they can. I think then we evaluate whether or not the GED option 2 is going to be the way, or we have to be more intense credit recovery options. A lot of times we do a little bit of trial and error in regards to students and finding the best fit, but that's why there is a pretty significant application process that we will have, that we really want to find the right fit for the students that are motivated, because there are some students that this may not fit. So we just, I will say this, that the high school is amazing, the toolbox that we have, that we find plans that work. So it's either going to be where we have to retool it, or we, depending on how close they were, we may just have to have them have more time in to ensure that they're learning the skill sets that we need for a diploma.
There's solid curriculum out there as well, so we'll have data points along the way to know if the student's on track and on pace to have the skills necessary to pass the test. Now, theoretically, they pass all the practice tests and the predictors say that they should pass it, and they come in and flop on that. Students do have the opportunity to do the test after the fact, but again, there's no guarantee that every kid will get the diploma at the time time that they should. With the wonderful adolescents we serve, sometimes we have obstacles that come up, and we make sure the parents are informed of what is the reality and the challenge that we're faced with, and they will have clear expectations and understanding of this is what you need to do to earn that privilege to walk across the stage with your peers coming in.
So where my question was going is, are we going to end up sending people back to CISA anyways?
Because even if we were to, that the JD option would not be right for that particular student, we still have a credit recovery option that we replicate what they can do out there. We have the same kind of curriculum online that they can do. It's just because they're there for 3 hours in a more intense environment, we can provide the same to them.
So I'm that same student, and I have some disciplinary issues also. Are we going to have to send that student to CISA?
We will not access that as a resource any longer. We have enough concerns about the environment that we don't believe it's the right place for our students. So our goal was really to come up with what is the right solution for our students. We believe we can meet the needs of whatever situation. If it's a student with extreme discipline situations, we do a lot of great work, homebound instruction, setting up with all the virtual tools that we have now. We can meet the needs of learners for really from a broad range of challenges or needs. We really don't believe we need to access that as a support service.
And we found too, some of the students that we have behavioral concerns, their behavior was exacerbated by their experience out there.
I agree with that. So, so other than yourself, what other staff is supporting this change?
We would be looking to hire 2 instructional assistants with the initial thought about it. And those costs are factored in, so the number that you see in the budget piece is again after we've hired those 2 instructional assistants.
Are those part-time?
Correct.
Again, really those instructional assistants will likely help offset the credit recovery and the WBS supervisory roles that Ms. Blunt serves as part of her LDED role there. So she can really invest in this program. This program will be the 3 hours in the morning. It will require quite a bit of following up to make sure students are maintaining jobs and building connections with community and the academic career planning stuff. But should really be able to balance the needs of our credit recovery and WBS.
So, as far as state aid goes, we get extra money for special ed in categorical aid, correct? Or no? Okay. And basically, we've just floated through to CISA to handle these particular kids.
Well, this isn't special ed.
This isn't special education, this is district operating.
Oh, it's okay. But there are some that might be on an IEP.
Rarely.
We don't have special ed students.
Just totally at risk, okay. So there is no extra categorical aid coming through for that?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Good question.
Any other questions? Comments? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you excited for everything under budget tiers?
Yes, so
Okay.
we would just be asking the board for approval of this. Obviously, it will change, this will guide the process depending on where the governor's budget ends up.
Excuse me, one second. My computer just decided to dump my board docs. Okay, regarding the health insurance piece that you had mentioned in there, I'm fine with waiting on that, but I guess I just want to make it clear that I'm okay with waiting on it because of the timing and, you want to look into it heavily. I don't want to not look at it because we don't quote-unquote need the money this year.
It really is about not kind of doing the nitpicking. We really want to create a benefit plan, and if we're going to make some adjustments, that'd be really thoughtful.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
If there was a comment that
Yeah.
we don't need it money this year, and it's like, no, that's...
Sorry. Let me rephrase.
Yeah. It didn't sit as well. So, all right. That being said, all those in favor of the budget tiers?
Well, we need a motion.
We need a motion.
Oh, we did? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
All those in favor of the budget tiers as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 11C, gifts, grants, and requests.
Motion to accept with thanks the following gifts. Lake Danoon Middle School, $2,500 from Muskego Girls Basketball for the purpose of supporting the Lake Danoon gym floor restoration. Muskego High School Baseball Boosters, $1,000 for Muskego High School towards 2017 stipend for assistant baseball coach.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you.
Thank you. Gym floor looks great.
It does.
It does,
look great.
it's really good.
Very nice.
The other comment
Soccer
is,
flooring.
what was it?
Soccer flooring.
The letter about the baseball booster says see attached letter. There is no see attached letter, so. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to discussion items. 12A, 2017-18 budget. This is a placeholder in the budget. Any questions that anyone would like to ask about the budget that we haven't talked about already? All right, moving on to 12B, technology lease. Mr. Tony.
Yes, so again, we're going to be in our 5th year of a one-to-one Chromebook process, which is actually a very exciting time because of our participation has been very high. We're well over 90% participation across the system, and so we are obviously wanting to make sure that we not only have a one-to-one process where it's assigned 5th through 12th grade, we're also keeping our ratios up at our elementary schools as well. This lease will also have our product for staff cycle as well. And so that includes replacing of device units for staff members. So oftentimes that's a laptop in this case. So that's so we can keep up with our replacement cycles for those two. So our primary focus and main cost of this lease is specifically around the process. But we do, again, have that opportunity to get into our elementary schools and maintain that ratio. The ratio is not just Chromebooks, it also is iPads too. We find that there's a great functionality in some of the classrooms, particularly in that K1-2 level. It's not the only place they're used, but is a more of a primary focus that we see. So our goal is to, initially as you see, there's a consistent decrease to the amount of this lease, and our intent over time, and maybe Julie, I'll ask you to add to it, is to get out of the leasing cycle. And of course, you might see a theme there with our fiber optic network and trying to get out of the leasing cycle, and also out of our one-to-one product leasing cycle. So, Julie, I don't know if there's anything more to say.
Sure. One of the things the board has talked about as we've brought forward the capital lease is the idea of being able to self-fund our own, so we don't have to go through that process. And when we started the leases, we're on a 4-year cycle, and as we've moved forward, we've been able to do some in a 3-year cycle. And so we're starting to see a lot of the older ones wrap up, and we believe within the next 2 years, the money that we put toward leasing, those leases will be up, and we may have 1 or 2 to pay off, but the funding that we're putting into those current leases will be able to go back into our operational budget, and we can use that funding to support the purchases every year as opposed to having to lease. So we believe that if not next year, it's 2 years out, but it will happen.
Are we retiring working Chromebooks? And what are we doing with them?
A couple different options. So first thing is a student that would have started with the device in 5th grade and moved into 8th grade would have the ability to take over ownership of that device. Same is true for students starting in 9th grade and moving through 12th. They would take ownership of that device. That was part of the premise and the basis for our one-to-one program, particularly when we were having families pay a fee for rental use of that device. So what was promised at that point in time was the ability to retain ownership of it. And so 90% of the time we're turning over that device for families who have then earned it. There are a few families that have come in part way. We give them a very inexpensive deferred option to purchase. In some cases, otherwise, they will turn it back into the district for use in other parts of the district. So we have quite a few spare parts from others. As you know, in our first few years, those families were not using it to the full extent. So a student may have started in 7th grade, used it in 7th and 8th. They've only used it 2 years. We did have some purchase options for families in the district. Others that were turned in, those were again used as spares, loaners, etc., to make sure that all students have a device at all times. And then in some cases, they could be used over time. They no longer make the current device that we have with the Samsung X303, so we kind of have to rely on our own spares for the parts to make sure that they're operational.
So we don't have any working Chromebooks that we're disposing of?
They work. Not nearly as well as the incoming devices.
That we're disposing of?
Oh, that we're disposing of. Really, in most cases, if we've disposed of them, they've absolutely not worked. Or the families have taken ownership of the spares, as you're probably sure.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So what are you looking for direction?
Yes, we'll be coming back at the next board meeting. Our goal then is to have a vendor to be selected. Of course, we go with 3 or more different leasing options to fulfill this obligation. Of course, we want to choose one based on low rates and ability to meet our needs. And so that's what we'll be coming back with to the board at that time.
Any other questions for Tony? Thank you. Moving on to discussion 12C, school naming rights update. Jeff?
Yeah, here we go. So before we begin, I just want to thank Dawn and Rachel for being here this evening, Bailey and administration. They were part of the process, and I would say did a phenomenal job working with students and staff and parents, and really working through the whole new middle school process. And really, beyond just the process that they engaged in, it was a learning opportunity for those respective people that were in that group. So thank you very much for the efforts that you put in. There is an attached presentation that we'll go to in just a sec. But if you recall, back in February 20th, when we were at Mill Valley, we were given a charge to really take a look at opening this up to the community and allow the community to chime in on naming of the new middle school and the potential of Mill Valley and Country Meadows names either remaining the same or changing. So, like I said, there's a presentation, and then also I've attached or linked School Board Policy 7250, which again is around naming of schools or district. So Tony, if you could help me go to the presentation, great. Really have several objectives this evening, and one is to just share a little bit more about the process that we engaged in with all 3 naming transition teams. Want to share the narrowed list of names that we have for the new middle school, current Mill Valley and current Country Meadows elementaries, and then really help you decide on what some of those next steps are going to be, and that will be at the very end of the presentation. So to be brief, and I won't go into tremendous detail about the process, but each one of the respective sites had school naming or transition teams. I already mentioned who was involved with Baleen in the new middle school. But we had parents, we had students, we had staff engaged in those processes. And the same held true for the Country Meadows Test Corners team, and then also Muskego Elementary, Mill Valley. Part of that process really included collecting resources about how do we really better understand the area. That's relevant because if we're going to be bringing forward particular names for consideration, we certainly want to make sure that our students, our staff, our parents have a good understanding about Muskego and the particular geographic region. So Dawn and Rachel did a tremendous job in providing multiple maps throughout time for teams to take a look at and really use that as they work through the different names and recommendations and board policy. As you know, we sent a survey out, and we sent that out to families via Infinite Campus. We sent a postcard out to the City of Muskego residents, Wind Lake, Town of Norway. And then we provided a link on each school library website for students to access. And we provided an announcement at each respective school for students to hear about the opportunity. And then the teams got together and narrowed down the names, and they used board policy really to helped direct some of that work, and then also a rubric that was used, and more specifically for the new middle school, in that rubric, they took a look at names. Do they portray a positive image? Is there a marketing appeal? And is there a justification of the name? And is it really aligned with board policy? So to get into the opportunity, again, the charge was provide opportunity for the community to give input and make this a community event. What I tried to do per a request from the board is to break down some of the data as far as who received postcards and how many people responded, where were they from, and you'll see that as I continue in the presentation, a little bit more of that breakdown of the data. So we sent out 10,697 postcards to people in Muskego and 1,753 postcards to Wind Lake and the town of Norway. And with that particular postcard, there was a link to complete this Google survey. And to be really specific, we had 4,950 students who had opportunity to take the survey. Roughly 9,500 parents had opportunity to take the survey. And then when you look at non-school related residents, that means parents that don't have, or excuse me, community residents that don't have kids in school or aren't staff members, roughly 14,772 students had opportunity to take the survey. So this next slide really provides a graphic as to who responded. We had 234 respondents to the particular survey, and this graphic really gives a great breakdown. You can tell in the green that parents, the majority of the people that responded, identified themselves as parents in the community. When you take a look at community members, about 13%, staff members, close to 8%, and then students made up around 36%. Then we had some alumni that chimed in, almost 2%. Underneath that particular graphic, I was asked roughly how many of those people are represented in Muskego versus Wind Lake or Norway or other. So you'll see the majority of the respondents were from Muskego, and then 6% were from Wind Lake or Norway, and then 6% were other. And that was based upon the address that they gave in taking the survey. The majority of those other, or 6%, were staff members that lived outside of Muskego or the town of Norway. So as I said earlier, there were 234 responses to the survey altogether. Most people took it online, although we did provide an opportunity on the postcard for people, if they didn't have access to the internet, to actually call us. And we would ask them the questions that were on the survey so that they had an opportunity to give input. We actually had 2 people that called in and chose to take that over the phone, which was very encouraging for us to be able to allow that opportunity and give them a voice. As I broke down the data, 197 responses were for the new middle school. There were 203 responses for the current Mill Valley site, and then 194 responses for current Country Meadows. Again, those numbers don't reflect the 234, but there were 234 totally different responses to that survey with the breakdown of how many people participated for each school underneath. So let's get into the middle school and some of what how the people responded. As mentioned, we had 197 responses for the new middle school. And if you're interested in what criteria were people using to help them determine what name they wanted to bring forward for consideration, the majority, 68%, were naming that school after a particular geographic location. And there were all sorts of different responses tied to that. Almost equal were named after a person who's a U.S. citizen or named after a person of historical significance, with the fewest number of responses coming in named after a person who's made outstanding contributions to education, humanity, or the community. As mentioned earlier, the middle school put together a very thoughtful rubric that they were able to narrow the 197 responses down to, you'll see, 4 names for consideration for the board. And again, those were the areas in the rubric: original creativity, connection to board policy, positive image, justification of name, and marketing appeal. So they narrowed that down from the 197 to 4. And they put people in different groups to find out what they had in common, and those 2 groups then came together and worked together as a team to further narrow it down, and then vote. So you can see, you don't see the full names here in the particular final vote that the particular group made, but this is just a slide to demonstrate the different names and then how the group responded. Each member on the team had 2 votes that they could make to schools that they could connect with that, again, fit board policy as well as the rubric that they used. And then this next slide really is representative of those final 4 names that the naming committee came up with and wanted to bring forward for board consideration. And they're ranked in order of 1st through 4th. It doesn't mean that those are the names necessarily that you are going to say, you know what, just because it's number 1, that's what we're going to bring forward. We certainly wanted to bring forward multiple names for the board to consider. You'll see the rationale on the far right side as far as why those names might be a good fit for the new middle school. Any questions at this particular point in time? So let's move on to Mill Valley. Mill Valley was a little bit different because Mill Valley actually has a name, and the new middle school doesn't have a name. So one of the things that we needed to respond to was, what does policy state about a school that already is named? I lifted the quote from board policy: once a facility has been officially named, it shall not be renamed except for compelling reasons to be determined by the board. So it felt like this particular slide was really relevant because the community spoke, students and staff and parents had an opportunity to speak, and 72.4% had exclaimed that we should keep Mill Valley Elementary the same name. Now you might say, was that primarily from Mill Valley parents? Was that from, Mill Valley students that were responding? It's really comforting to know that even Muskego Elementary parents and students had said that Mill Valley should remain Mill Valley. So it wasn't all Mill Valley alum or people that live in that attendance area that responded that particular way. Again, it was encouraging to see that even some Muskego Well students that are going there, and parents also said that we should keep it Mill Valley. And again, just wanted to share with you, of all the people that responded, what criteria were they looking at as far as the name, and 82% said after a geographic location. And then the team really vetted all these names through policy because, again, it's a little bit different than what the new middle school team took a look at. So here you see in this next slide the names that the group brought forward. You'll see Mill Valley Elementary, Muskego Valley Elementary, Hillendale Elementary, and then Jewel Creek Elementary. And then the rationale as to, why we might consider one name or another. And then lastly, Country Meadows. Again, Country Meadows is unique from the middle school because it already has a name. You'll take a look at just over 50% said, let's keep Country Meadows the same name. And again, criteria pretty clear that they wanted to name it after a specific geographic location or a section of the district that it's in. And they narrowed, again, the names down by vetting it through the school board policy. Next slide, you'll see the names that were brought forward by that particular team of people. Country Meadows, Bay Lane Elementary, and then Hilltop Elementary. You'll see the particular rationale. What's interesting of this particular one, they actually connected with other districts who have had a building that's been in existence, like let's just say that goes from a middle school to an elementary. The school name remained the same, it's just that they changed the suffix. So Bay Lane, like an example, Bay Lane Middle School would transition to Bay Lane Elementary, if that makes sense. So again, the team felt that that was important to bring forward as far as the rationale for the particular name. And then lastly, one of the things that I would think we want to determine right now is what are our next steps? How much discussion do we want to have around this tonight? I'm more than happy to answer questions. I would think that the board would want to engage in conversation about what we just learned tonight. Would we want to consider a board work session where we have some more time to maybe spend talking about these particular school names, and then revisit the conversation at the May 15th board meeting? So with that said, I'm open to questions, or I'm opening up to the board for conversation with one another.
I've got I'm not sure I want to go so deep in this tonight. I'm not sure what you can offer going forward. I mean, thank you for doing this. And I know your team can't force people to respond. Then you send out surveys and postcards and you get what you get. However, when we were doing the referendum, I think, and we were going over, we're basically looking at what is significant, what's statistical significance here, and you're basing this, I think, on 294 respondents. But it's like it's almost 1% of what you sent out. So is that really statistically significant to base, and in answer I'm just thinking aloud, to base the naming of the schools on? And I don't think we would have probably written a referendum question on it. I think we waited and we kind of put a bit more effort into it, but there was a greater cost than two, right? So I don't know. It's just a thought. That was a thought I had when I looked at it. I wasn't really surprised about anything. I liked how I liked the format that you used, and I think people responded to it. I'm just always disappointed we don't have more people that respond to surveys of this importance, because, it's just, for me, it's just it's less than 1% of what you sent out, so I don't know.
The impact is far less, right? I mean...
You don't know that. I mean, the impact the impact of naming the schools can be very big. And with a 1%, I guess that's the question. Is 1% enough to base the naming of the schools on?
I would say so, because it means the other 99% are indifferent, as long as we don't pick a really bad name.
Yeah, and that's one.
That's how I would see it.
That's one. I mean, I don't think a person doing a survey would consider this statistically significant, but I guess I'm just trying to base that, because once you do it, you do it. And
I think that's why we had the committee set up at each school, knowing that the results weren't going to be a high percentage. We've tasked those schools with taking that information and bringing their suggestions to us.
As far as statistics, I mean, you're fairly close. I mean, typically what you want for a sampling is 2%. You're at 1%, you're halfway there. And then if you extrapolate that out to, that's 1% of the whole surveyed area, the impact, well, it does affect the whole community. It's typically the users, so it's probably about 2%, actually.
Because it's half of the district, and it's K-8. Already the high school parents are probably like, wow.
Yeah, you do. The one thing that's good in here is, I think, for one, it's an honest process that you put it through. It's defendable, and there's no real close answers on this. The ones that rose to the top pretty strong. So, I don't think you're going to have people with pitchforks no matter what we come up with. As long as we follow the process,
Maybe it's
right
a matter of
process.
that, just trying to determine the impact. I'm also sure I would have spent $36 million on a less than 1% response rate, but
I agree.
this doesn't rise to that. I don't know.
And if you're asking someone to spend $36 million, they probably care more and they fill out the survey.
Yeah, so I don't know. Just,
I think what it's telling you is that,
I struggle with that when data is not, I'm like, yeah.
I think they're fairly they don't care for the most part.
So, yeah, I'll have to think about it. I had some notes and I was just thinking, I don't know, I'll forward some to you. I don't know. It's hard for me to make a choice based on that.
So as far as process, what is the board, what is your favor for moving forward with this? Do you want to do a work session? You want to just put it up as a discussion item on the next board meeting, have another thing to talk about it? Should throw everything into a hat, draw something out, throw darts on the wall? What would you guys like to do?
What's the goal at the next meeting?
I'm sure staff would like some direction on what we're going to go forward for naming, because that's going to one.
So, is that the goal, is to pick the names?
Yeah.
Or if there's another process, another step in the process you'd like us to take. Like, we can't decide between these two, go back to the committee and ask these questions, or...
Well, I would say between now and then, why don't you send us out a survey? If all 7 of us have agreed on the 3 names, we don't have discussion. We just bring it for a vote. If we don't have complete
unanimous
decision, then we'll have discussion on it.
How do you want to do it, like a ranking, or?
Can we do
that?
I don't think just do that.
We're not going to do that.
You go up, you just check.
Because you're making a decision.
No, we're not. They're asking for...
It's gray area. I think it's gray area for a meeting, but, we're making we're going to be making the actual decision at a meeting later, so I guess it's...
Maybe. Is there a way that we could just, maybe that is a meeting because we're offering our opinion based on that.
But if you can't see one another's...
I think everyone should just have
you won't know what
meeting
one another's
and then
are.
see
Well, you have to actually, if we're going to do that.
No, you don't.
Oh, no, I think you do have an illegal meeting then.
Why? If you don't see one another's opinions, what's the difference? She's asking us individually so she can prepare for the next meeting.
Want me to check, make sure it's okay before we do it?
Sure.
If that's the preferred way...
It's the last thing I want to be called in front of for something dumb like this.
Process, yes.
Right.
That would be a good way to do it, if you could somehow pull the board. Can't you do it? You're the president, you can pull the board.
No, not legally.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, and actually, I've only got, there's only one item here that surprises me, but all the other ones, in fact, at middle school, I was kind of, I never thought of that.
I either, I like it though.
Yeah, I know, I'm kind of like warming up to it, but I'm surprised on one, and I'm unclear of that, but other than that, but I can send an email to you, Jeff, on that one, because I think I want some more data on that.
Well, it's listed, you can ask him right now. It's not like
Well, I want some more data on the tests. I find that awkward when test more than doubles that area, so I'd like to know what...
Oh, you mean as far as their participation?
Yeah, what families from tests.
Well, I limited them in the mailing, so...
Yeah, that'd be, so if the demographic says that there's a significant, or at least the same percentage in the test corners area as there is the country meadows area, then I'm fine. But I guess I just want to see that.
I don't remember, was that a question for them?
I don't see it on here, do you?
Jeff, was that a question that we asked, like what school are you currently from? Like how did you know Muskego Elementary parents?
Yeah, we did. That was a question on there.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's easy to...
Yeah, that, because I think we asked for that, so that would be a good item to share that, I'd like to know. Because then, at least, you know, if that's it, that's fine, then the data will speak, but I'm curious how that... Whereas the Mill Valley one, I somewhat expected due to the size and population of the area. I did not expect that for the test corners one. So, but
That
if,
52% would have
Yeah.
said keep it.
yeah. Well, they may have, but what's the,
Yeah.
yeah, the overall participation of each, yeah. So I think that's probably the only thing that I just wanted to make sure.
I would also just prefer to take care of this at a board meeting as opposed to a separate board meeting. There's
That's kind of
work
what
session.
I was hoping that people would do
Yeah,
that,
only because, I
the last
mean,
thing wanted to do is a work
time's a
session.
little tight at the end of the school year.
That's true.
Few things
Yeah.
going on.
Yes, yes.
I would just throw this out there, Chris, that relative to the question about test corners, you know, does geographical significance and location play into whether or not that would even be a considered name, given where Test Corners currently is in comparison to where the Country Meadows complex is, if that makes sense.
What is significant are the families that are at test corners going to.
So was your question, was Test Corners a consideration for a name?
No.
Okay.
No, represented in the
So,
survey.
yeah, the current test corners area, I want to know how many of that 200, or of the amount that cited the naming were part of test corners and not.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's an interesting stat.
Okay.
So otherwise, I think the process was very solid. But I know you can't control who responds, but it is significant, you know, if you're going to make a choice.
So would you find, I'm just looking at the survey results, and are you going to use the home address? Is that, Jeff, is that how you're going to?
That's the only way that I'll be able to do it, right?
I mean, they don't, yeah.
For any parents that respond.
214 responses in that,
It's
giving the
pretty easy to
info.
tell, you just look at the street name, I mean, I could,
Yeah.
you can go through it and it's not hard. So,
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I had to disaggregate it between Town of Norway, Wind Lake, and Muskego. Because some people did not put their city name, so I had to take a look at addresses for those that didn't.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be, I
So
thought
we
it was
asked
going to
their
be able to go in.
address and that thing?
It just, yeah, provide your address. I thought if they.
This is a little bit more time intensive for
Oh, it's fine. It's
Jeff to have to do.
During your break time.
And he's already done
For him to task someone with doing.
Turn your mic on.
I can do that, Chris.
yeah, thanks.
Yep.
So I'm trying to remember on the survey, do we list any particular names or do we just ask for suggestions?
It's
On
suggested
February
the name.
20th?
When they went through the survey, and I remember the question, one of the questions was, should we name it after like regional, historical,
Just the
et
names
cetera?
we like, we highlighted them, underlined them.
No, it says suggested name for the new middle school,
They weren't-
open-ended.
They were, yeah, open-ended, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, is there some interesting names?
I'd be kind of interested to see what other, if there's a list of just all the names that were submitted.
Of course there is.
If we can have that when we go through it.
I don't want to see that, but if
You
you
don't?
want to, no.
I'm curious.
What are they going to do? Yeah, if you want to see that data, that's fine, but I.
A lot of president names
Yeah.
were mentioned. A lot of president names.
Kyle. Was
Yeah.
one.
Kyle?
Kyle.
I bet, well.
I like Kyle's idea. Bob's cool.
Kyle's most excellent middle school.
All right, anything else?
Okay, so
Related to
given these other things that people want to know, would it make more sense for us just to have the meeting then? Or do you still want to do the survey of if everybody's unanimous, then we're good?
I thought that survey, or I don't know if there's a way to do it. I thought it would certainly reduce the time to just meet, because we may not
Well, we've agreed we're not going to do a special meeting.
Yeah, so,
And I'll tell you, I'm not putting a lot of time into it. If we do it as a meeting anyway myself, I'm not that invested into it, so I'm not going to talk a lot. You guys, Lisa, all else is.
Pretty clear, I don't want another
I think we can just
session.
do it as an action item.
yeah.
Go forward.
Okay, action item,
And I
No.
think if I can get that info, like, soon, not the day before or anything like that, so, yeah.
So,
Or do you do it as a discussion item, and then if we have you move to...
sure, better idea, yeah. We can always move to take action on it.
I mean, you could actually just go through each of the schools and then
Just three questions.
3 questions, okay.
But
In
that's the-
discussion, and then if the board's
And we can move for
comfortable.
immediate action if we need to, or maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should say, this is what we're going to do, and it goes out to the media, and we have feedback between that and the next meeting. Is that a killer if it goes out that long?
If it goes out that long.
So if we did next meeting, we just do a discussion, we come to consensus what we do, the media for some reason says, oh, the board came up with this, and we don't take action on it until the next meeting. That way, if you are that concerned about it in the community, you have until the next meeting to fill our ear with why it should be called.
I think it's not a bad
Buckmaster
idea to
Academy.
publicly say where these are the current top
Right.
things, and
Yeah.
then see what.
But it gives an
Then-
opportunity to,
That is defendable, because you've publicly said, even with this, you can say, look, well.
Here's your chance.
Yeah, and
Right.
we put it out there, now that would
Kind of
complete.
loop back to the public.
That would
there.
validate whatever response, because now you've gone out there again, and not, I mean, since surveys, like you just publicly say.
we'll just have
this
Jane
is
put
okay.
an article.
Yeah, call, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so just a discussion item, no polling, there'll be discussion.
Oh, I like that.
And you'll come up with one from the board for each one of the 3, and then we'll communicate that out.
And we'll take action on it the following meeting.
And then action, okay.
I really like that elementary school, I know, or the middle school. That was kind of interesting.
Kyle?
Kyle?
Buckmaster Academy.
Muskego Lake.
Yeah, that's, I never, for some reason, never.
Kyle, Muskego Lake.
Peterson Penitentiary.
That was really well done. That was surprising.
Anyways, now.
She almost fell off the chair. All right, since we're on naming, item 12D, agreement with Impro, naming rights.
Thanks, ladies.
Good night.
Good night, thank you.
So,
Okay, so included in your information is the agreement between Impro and Gridiron for their donation, or their commitment letter, that talks about their willingness to donate $600,000 over a 5-year period, beginning in 2018, and that would cover naming rights to the stadium entrance and Woods Road entrance, also have their logo on the playing field, and having scoreboard signage approved by Impro. So the next item that's attached is an agreement that we would want to have, that we worked with our attorney to have drafted, to talk about the sponsorship agreement between Impro and the district, and the district itself. And there were a couple things that we wanted to not only put in so that they align with our sponsorship and naming rights policy, but also at some point the naming rights are going to end, and we just have to be very clear and agreed with Impro what that looks like. One of the things in the commitment letter is that it would be permanent scoreboard signage. Well, at some point, if the scoreboard goes away, we just want to be very clear. So I won't go through all the details of the agreement. There's a lot of legal language in here, but number 3 in the agreement talks specifically about the naming rights and the sunset periods that would occur. So for the turf itself, they're looking to have their name actually in the carpet of the turf on 2 different areas, and then possibly the sidelines as well.
And we can do that? WIAA says we can do that?
There are specific requirements as to how it's laid into the turf, but yes, WIA has approved that. But it has to be very specific to their guidelines.
can I ask
Yes.
this question?
Yeah.
So they want it in 2 areas, I'm assuming 2 corners of the thing, but you mentioned possibly the end zone as well?
No, not the end zone. They
Sidelines.
actually, the
graphic that we were shown was kind of like on the 30-yard line, like in between the 20 and the 30 or something
Sure.
on each side of the field, and then where the players actually would stand.
And they want that as well? Or is that,
That was something they had mentioned, but it's not actually in the agreement, so.
because that's limiting another avenue for sponsorship if they didn't ask for it, I don't want to throw it out there.
Yeah,
but-
because actually they have the four corners too, so it would be.
Oh, it was the four corners, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
not the
separate.
sidelines.
That's separate for four corners. So,
What does that mean, four corners?
they're selling also naming rights to a corner of the field.
Okay.
But separate from this agreement, that would be through.
Where would that go on the field, in the end zone, or?
Sorry?
Where would that go on the field, in the end zone, or on
What?
the?
Info or four
Yeah.
corners?
No,
The four corners. Would that be outside?
It's virtual,
Yeah.
isn't it?
No, they're also doing squares. That's virtual. This would be outside of the playing field,
Okay.
literally like in the corners.
Okay.
So again, the turf itself, the naming rights to the turf would sunset when the turf would have to be replaced. And then we've put in, and you'll see it's in bold, we put in 10 years for the sunset on the other items. Now, we haven't really had discussion around naming rights and how long $600,000 worth of donation would qualify your name to remain on the field or remain on the scoreboard, so on and so forth. This was a starting point. I'm up for any recommendations from the board. In talking with McWanago, they had a $750,000 donation for their PAC, and they gave naming rights for 30 years. So it kind of ranges, like how much do you think the naming right, the value of that is worth for how long. But at some point it should sunset because, again, the scoreboard will have to be replaced, signage will have to be replaced, and there's a cost associated with that. Other than that, the agreement also states that aside from those areas, and then we have to just get a little bit more specific on the scoreboard because we want to be able to also advertise on the scoreboard. So it would be like, InPro would have like the main kind of, however they're going to set up, depending what the scoreboard looks like, they would have the main naming rights, but we'd also be able to advertise different companies in various locations on the scoreboard. And this says that we have the right to seek other sponsorships for other areas of the stadium. Other than that, everything else is pretty legal, standard language. This is the first draft of it. We have not shown it to InPro. We wanted to get your input first before we forward it on for their opinion.
I would probably, any other impro stuff other than what's on the field, I would say a minimum of 10 years or until it's replaced or taken down or whatever. I mean, are you really, like right now, the impro's out on the board, on the back of the bleachers? I'm sure there probably was a date set on that,
There wasn't actually.
but,
That was a,
it's just, it's going to stay there until
well, and here's, I'm glad you pointed to the one that's on there. Yeah, there should have been an agreement then that this will last X, I don't care what it is, but they should have put some sunset on it because it's staying there because there wasn't and there was nothing else moving forward. But had it expired in 10 years or 15 years or whatever number they came up with, there would probably been a concerted effort at that point to either renew with them or check with somebody else or whatever. And I think we need to do the same thing here, put a hard deadline on it. It just opens up renegotiations at that point. I guess I would start with 10 years and, want to go higher. I'm okay, but I just want a number on it. I don't have a definite that it should be X amount, but I'm definite that there should be a number.
For the turf, it's when we have to replace a carpet. Correct. And that is about
2 to
10
3
years.
No, 10.
Now how much, really, how many years?
Well,
8 to 10
they were
years.
talking, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay.
So
I thought
would it make sense
I thought
to
when the
have
first
that
sales
line?
pitch came out, it was like 15 to 20.
So
Okay.
we'll have to fundraise for that, obviously for recarpeting and then, but would it make sense to have that? Because if they have to recarpet, they're going to have to do something with the scoreboard at that time, right?
Why?
I don't know. What do you- No,
Not
wouldn't?
necessarily.
No.
But another reason though that we want to consider is because the scoreboard, you can keep a scoreboard for as long as it's
Working.
standing
Functional.
and
Right.
working and functional, but does that mean that's what we want for 20 years? Technology will change, things will change, so.
20 years from now, it'll be a big screen.
Well, I think that's
They
a
may be
foregone
purchasing
conclusion,
big
I'm sure it will be. Yeah, the cost of these things will be nothing.
So going with what Eric was saying, something like at least 10 years or until a change, but.
Well, and again, if we do an or until a change, specifically like for the scoreboard, they may want something in there, at least, just so that we don't replace it every 3 years or something like that. But also so that we don't have a decrepit scoreboard, that it still works, but
Can we
it's ugly.
can we just start with 10 years? Is there any downside to that? Am I missing?
And it's aligned with the turf replacement.
Industry standard is 8-year warranty on the turf materials, could last up to 10 years. Oh.
And if we know, our crew, they're going to try to get as much out of it as possible, so.
Well, and
Maybe 12 years.
I guess there's something else you may want to think about for maybe when the turf goes in, we start putting $100,000 into our capital improvement fund
It's a fun 46.
yearly, which will get you $1 million by the time the turf is shot.
Well, in replacing the turf, this first go around, we have a lot of infrastructure that's going with it. It's not.
Well, it does say that
recurring.
the base is about 20 to 30 years. So.
I'm fine with starting with 10.
And I guess as long as if they seem offended on there, just say this, and we just throw a number. I don't want to offend them by any means.
Right, we'll start with that
It's a
as
gift.
well.
Don't look a gift horse in the eye. But
Right.
We're just doing this for both parties' sakes. The other part of this that probably did play into our help a little bit is we do still have that logo up there, and they hate it. Their marketing people cringe every time they see it, so they wanted to get it down. I thought maybe this was the only way of doing it.
Okay, we'll forward this on and get their opinion on it, and hopefully have something at the next meeting to bring back for your review.
So Julie, you said that the logo and the turf has to be in accordance with WIAA?
Correct.
So do any of our references in 3 refer to that?
That's a good point. We should have that somewhere in the contract that if
you're
whatever
right.
I wouldn't even say WIAA, I would say governing bodies, regulations change.
That's kind of vague, I don't know.
Right. But I think we should have something in there
Something.
that if they come up with, you can't have this here anymore, and it's not within our power.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. Let's just say down the, who knows,
Yeah,
right. They decide you can't have any corporate logos.
It's the WIA, who knows?
Right.
Right. I'm surprised that it's there in the first place.
So am I.
Well, for now, who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, we're going to have ads on the back of helmets soon.
The thing about the turf is that, well, it seems like a good idea. You just have to be careful because it's very expensive to have to cut out that logo and replace it if something happens with the company.
Yeah.
So, Impro's a long-standing company in Muskego, which is why I think there's more comfort.
Wouldn't it just be painted on there?
No, it's sewn in.
It's sewn in, yeah. It's part of it. It goes down to the very fiber of the, literally. But so what if the company goes under? Unless they go under some scandal, they paid for it. Let the company could be gone, the logo stays.
Correct. I'm thinking more scandalish,
Okay.
which is why you don't want to just sell any logo opportunity in your deal.
Frankly, never follows out. Okay, anything else on this?
So we'll bring it back to Impro and then bring it back to the board, so maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
12E, MPC update?
Okay, so in the administrative content, you have access again to the CPT, the new owner architect construction team, which will be starting on May 10th. Rick is like a standing member on that. If anybody wants to attend, let me know, because if it gets to be 3 or more, then we'll be posting that, but otherwise. And so just as a reminder, what we discussed at the last COW meeting was that any construction contingency funds utilized will be discussed at the OAC and shared with the board at the next scheduled board meeting. It is we'll have more conversation about the owners' contingency funds here at the board level. The additional master plan projects, you would have received last week an invitation for an October 18th board meeting for reviewing bids at 6 o'clock on that evening for the pool bids, and that's coming from our last conversation as well. And then the bid that would come forward after that October 18th meeting would come to the board on October 24th, and that's when the board would essentially in that time period be determining whether or not we're moving forward or not. But between now and then, we'll be updating you on engineering and all of those types of things that you gave us approval to kind of move forward with. We do have some indication of some additional actual donations related to the pool, so we'll be bringing those forward for the board to consider accepting in the next month or 2 also, so that's encouraging. We did meet with the Gridiron last week. It's not articulated in here, and we discussed their interest in understanding better how much in-hand money they need to have and how much the district will actually front, with a very articulated plan of how they're going to fundraise. But there are some things that are unknown, like how much additional money is it going to cost to sew in a logo at the 25-yard line twice, and then plus the 4 corners if we're doing that as well. So there are additional things that we're going to have to consider. We did throw out in the beginning of the whole conversation with Gridiron, it was a $1.2 million raise these funds, and then we'll talk about what the need is there. And they are interested in moving up the project to 2018. What we shared with them at the board at that meeting was we won't be able to even share that with the board until we know what the budget's like. And at the earliest, that'll be June, and it could be as late as October. They understand that timeline, and we just said we're not going to even talk about it because we have all these other things, and determining whether or not we're moving up a project that is already tiered out will only depend on where we're at with the budget and how we're doing with construction and all of those other things. So they were understanding of that. Any questions about that?
So, are we still on this discussion item for
MPC?
Okay. What's our, I don't know if we can talk about this right now.
Well, I can go back to the discussion item if you want.
Well, it might be under this one also, but it's not really naming rights either. I'm thinking about, do we have a plan for, I noticed there's a schedule of payments that would come from Impro.
Correct.
And I'm guessing that the Booster Club is going to ask us to front the 4 years that aren't going to be here when this project may start.
Correct.
Have we discussed that?
Well, that's what I was talking about. We're not going to, that's what the Gridiron wants to know. How much do they have to actually have in hand, and how much will the board front, and at what point? And I said, we won't even have a board discussion about that until we know what the budget is, the biennial budget. So, and I just shared with them, June is the earliest, and it could go as late as October, and they understand.
Because it affects fund balance and everything
Well,
else.
it affects a lot, especially if we're already going to possibly front $480,000. I'm not sure there's much more we can do than that. We'll have to talk about that. But
absolutely. So they know what they.
Yeah, they haven't
It's not
even-
a discussion to have now. Essentially,
Yeah, and
what we told them.
they just started their other boots on the ground fundraising. They didn't even start those other things like selling the 4 corners and the virtual squares and all of those things. So they don't even know, how well that's going to even go over. So.
Okay.
Okay, and then just the ground-breaking ceremony at the new middle school will be June 5th at 11:30. And so we'll, as more and more detail comes out about that, we'll share that with the board. But that should be on your calendars.
Any questions under this item? Hearing none, item 13, information follow-up, continued. Personnel memorandum, anything else? Any other information follow-up that requested? Hearing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We were adjourned at 10:12. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.